As, uh, as part of my seminary formation, we were given the opportunity to go to Rome once. And we were warned about this gypsy thing that goes on. Like, there's a lot of people asking on the streets for money. And they told us that it's all part of a business, if you may say, that people just kind of trying to make money of it. And we heard it, we kind of believed it. But on our first way to the St. Peter's Square, it's a bunch of seminarians dressed as priests went out, and there was a lady that came out to us with a baby asking us for money. We felt bad, and one of my brother seminarians gave him a bunch of money. And so on the way back from St. Peter's Square, we went through a tunnel, and we saw the same lady kind of changing her outfit. And so we looked at each other, it's like, oh, so much for the need, huh? And so we kind of make fun of this seminarian. Not really, but a little bit. And so a couple of days later, I had a similar experience where we were going to see a church, and a kid came up asking for money. And I told him that I didn't have money, but I'll be willing to share my lunch with him. So I gave him my sandwich and my apple, or an apple. And he kind of walked away, not very happy. And I turned around, and the first garbage bin that he found, he just threw him there. I was like, oh, dude, that was my lunch. And from that then on, every time I see someone on the street, that I kind of have like a limited perspective, a perspective that is tainted because of those experiences that I've had in the past. And I try my best to help and be generous as I can with those people, and kind of sit down with them, pray with them, and be with them. But that's my limited, sinful perspective every time I see a person like that. But that is not the case with God. I think that with God, all of us are beggars. All of us are in need of something, and we regularly come to the Lord asking for help. And every time that we come to the Lord is not looking down upon us with doubt, whether we're honest or real or not. For the Lord, every time we come to Him and ask Him for whatever it is that we need help with, the Lord sees it as an opportunity to pour His love upon us. The Lord sees our need and our encounter with Him as an opportunity to be with us, to love us. And the Lord hopes that this is a day where we are actually honest about our need about the Lord, that we will be true beggars, and that the Lord we are open to receiving His love and His mercy. But the Lord's way of looking at us is pure and sincere, hoping that we will be open to receiving His love and His mercy. From the first reading today, we heard how, through the prophet Jeremiah, how the people of Israel was being scattered away with sadness and tears in their eyes because they had forgotten about the Lord's ways and about God Himself. And God kind of stepped away from them for a moment. God gave them that liberty. You want to be away from me? Go ahead. Be free. And then the more they pulled away from the Lord, the more miserable they were, the more suffering they were experiencing. And so the Lord saw their tears in their eyes. The Lord saw how they were suffering in their own misery and their own brokenness. And through the prophet Jeremiah, God promised that He was going to lead His people back home. That God, a father to Israel, a father to His children, was going to be there for His children, was going to console them and be with them. God promised that He was going to gather His people from all over the place into one family, so that they could come and experience that fatherly love that He has. That fatherly love that loves us with sacrifice, that loves us with tender, hoping that we will receive His love. And so that's what we heard in the first reading. And in the gospel, we see how we have a Father that fulfills His promises. The Father sent the Son into the world so that He can gather His family with us. In the opening of the gospel, we heard that Jesus was with a sizable crowd. He had already a bunch of followers, a bunch of broken people with Him. And He was about to admit and to bring one more broken individual into that family. This broken individual was a blind and a lame. The blind and the lame that Jeremiah had promised about, Jesus was about to bring them into this family. And so this blind man comes to Jesus, or not comes to Jesus, but is seated on the side of the road when the rest are walking When he heard that Jesus was passing by, this man couldn't see Jesus. Obviously, he was blind. He could never seen God before or Jesus himself. But he only heard that Jesus was a miracle worker. This person that gave life to the dead, that made the crippled walk and the blind see. And so just by hearing about Jesus, this guy believed. This guy opened up his heart to the Lord so that the Lord can work through him. So this guy completely surrendered his own misery, his own pride, and just begged the Lord for mercy. He was the only one in the gospel who calls Jesus by name. In the Gospel of Mark, Jesus, Son of David, have pity on me. And obviously, the more he cried out for mercy, the followers of Jesus kind of try to keep him quiet, try to ignore him. How familiar does that sound to us today? And it's not that the Lord did not hear them. He heard this man at first, but he was observing his followers, what his followers would do. He was just observing what the followers were trying to do to keep him quiet. This lame person was just sitting while the rest were walking. The rest could see where they were going. The rest could see Jesus and be with Jesus. But this blind couldn't be with him because he didn't know where Jesus was. He couldn't see him. And so the rest of the followers tried to quiet him. Don't worry about it. They were probably thinking inside of themselves, Lord, don't worry about this man. This is just another blind person who can't see. This is just another lame. But don't worry, we're here. We can see you. We're more important. But this guy was courageous. The more he was trying to put down, they were trying to put him down, the more he cried out with more courage and more strength and more fortitude. Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me. And so the Lord called him and brought him over to him. And they enter into this dialogue between the blind and Jesus himself. And the Lord asked him, what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do for you? In today's society, there's many of us who don't even know that there is a Father in heaven that loves us, that wants to be with us, that wants to console us in our brokenness, in our sinfulness. That rather than being judgmental and pushing us away from Him, He wants to gather us in. He wants to be with us. He wants to console us. He's hoping for that day that you and I turn to Him with our need and actually ask Him for mercy. As I said at the beginning, we are all beggars. We are all begging for something. Whether it is for affirmation from other people, whether it's we beg for love, for respect, for honor, for pleasure, for whatever it is, you name it. We are always asking people for something. I hope that at the end of the day, you and I become beggars, but beggars of Jesus and Jesus' love and mercy. Jesus alone. I hope that we become beggars not of a gift, but of the giver Himself. Our Lord created us with a void in our hearts, and a void that can only be satisfied with the person of Christ Himself, with God and only God. And the more we try to fill it with other things, the more we will suffer. The more tears will run down our cheeks. The Lord is in our midst already. We heard Him in word through the sacred scriptures. And we're about to receive Him in the Eucharist. We're about to see the Lord, and the Lord is going to pass through our midst. I hope that you and I have that same faith of the beggar who sprang up and came to Jesus, who threw off his cloak to come to the Lord. I hope you and I are able to enter into this dialogue with Jesus. When He comes to you, He's going to ask you, what do you want me to do for you? What do you need? And it's the same question that He keeps asking us every second of our life, every moment. What do you need? What can I do for you? And if we can't pinpoint to what our need is, if we can't name it, if we can't call it, how do we expect to see the Lord? How do we expect to be healed and restored by God if we can't name it? So the challenge for us is, what is our response? And Jesus will ask you, and is asking you, what can I do for you?